It's on, by the way.
Oh, thank you, Rose. All right, so here's today's video. All right, whiteboard. These are the big topics. Us versus them. Everybody is decompressing from this. People who support Donald Trump, our president-elect, next president of the United States, they're upset that he's not being given the legitimacy of his chance that this opportunity affords him by winning the election. Fair point. There is a lot of hostility. The left is upset. Although we don't really even know what the left is anymore. We don't know what's the left. We don't know what's the right. Why? Because this election was odd on many different levels, and the results make it even more odd. Why? Because you have the popular vote is so disconnected from the electoral vote now, and there are all these questions about the electoral college, which is a weird device that only we have, and we have it born of a very ugly time in our history. But there is an argument to be made that it does balance out the population centers from the power base in this country, but that's for another day. For me, us versus them. It has to pass with time with a qualifier. We need to be united. That's what makes us great, us, United States. However, you do have to qualify the chance that Donald Trump deserves as president-elect for winning through our democratic process, which was not rigged, is qualified with whether he remedies what he said that created the division and shows going forward that he won't exacerbate those tensions, that he won't be the ugly things that people fear. So the chance is qualified. But us versus them, stop thinking that way. Start thinking about, well, what do I need to see? And how do I need to see it? And what concerns me as a Trump supporter and what I want to see followed through on. Don't be had by another politician. If he starts moving on all of his policy positions and he's not getting what you wanted, if the wall becomes a fence, all right, but what if there is no wall or fence? What if it gets pushed off for another day? What if you don't get this aggressive rounding up that you guys wanted so badly? Because it doesn't sound like you're going to get it. Him saying, if you're here illegally, we're going to get you out, well, that's the policy right now. How you do that has always been the key distinction. He played on that in the election. What will he do now? But remember, we are our best when we are most unified, and our diversity is our strength. You may not like what I say or how I look or what I do, but we respect each other's freedom under the law in the United States. Remember that. That's why riots are wrong. I know Martin Luther King said that riot is the language of the unheard. Okay, but it's also a crime, and it should be called out. Now, leaders, why isn't President Obama speaking out more against these riots, speaking to the division, speaking to what's going on? He usually does that very well. Why not now? Why isn't Hillary Clinton? Why isn't even maybe Bernie Sanders? And why isn't Donald Trump? For him to say on 60 Minutes, really, these ugly incidents are happening towards minorities? I hadn't heard that. He monitors the media 24/7. Then he looks in the camera and says, stop it. That's not enough. He's going to be president-elect of the United States, president of the United States. He should speak to it, shouldn't he? What do you think? Now, I wrote this in the middle. GOP, swallow Trump to feast on power. What you're going to start hearing from Republicans who are in office right now is, look, I don't really want to talk about Trump because Trump was our vehicle to be back in control. And they're willing to swallow certain things about him in order to get that access and power. Let's see how that plays out. I think that what you're going to see is the GOP pushing a legislative agenda that Trump may adopt at least early on to get some quick victories. So keep an eye on that. And what is actually going to be offered you in the wake of this presidency may not be what you thought the priorities were going to be going in. Okay, now the last point, nature versus nurture. How's Donald Trump going to lead? We don't know. Why? Because I don't think he fully knows. He's a deal maker, he's a businessman, he's going to make America great again. All of these things are very nebulous. They always have been. It was part of his charm, part of his effectiveness, difficult to nail down except for what came out of his mouth that was very offensive. I don't think he has an ideological inclination. He's never shown one in the past. He's been with both parties, he's been back and forth on different issues. You know, even now, 60 Minutes last night, watch for yourself. Roe v. Wade, I want a judge that's going to strike that down. And then whatever happens at the state level. Doesn't matter if poor people can't get access to reproductive exercise their reproductive rights, and they'll go to another state. But gay marriage, well, that's settled law. What does that show you? Well, that shows you, one, he's no constitutional scholar, but that's not really neither here nor there. But it shows that politically, he wants to hold stronger to Roe v. Wade and abortion and making it go away than gay marriage, because they're both equal in the eyes of the law. They're both stare decisis right now. They're both legal precedent on the federal level. Interesting. So we don't know who he is. That's why you got to look at who he puts around him. Nature is who you is. Nurture is what you're made by those around you. Okay, every parent knows this. Nature loses to nurture 9 times out of 10. Friends always win with your kids in terms of influence. That's why you want your kids to have good friends around you. Steve Bannon is a relevant consideration. Try to find an analogy of another president who put a guy like Steve Bannon in power in the White House. And by that I mean a very extreme known commodity of division, of deception, and that is dangerous. I don't like that word being used also because it always exaggerates things. Oh, this is very dangerous what he said. No, it's just political BS most of the time. This is dangerous. What they do with that outfit and how they play on different divisions and how they attack the idea of diversity and what this country used to want to be. We don't really know what it's going to be now. We have to see. It's worth it. You can't find me another Bannon, and there's a reason for that. And it's not just because his website, Breitbart, comes after me. I'm one of many. And yes, it does go after me, and I believe very often unfairly. And also when it highlights things that I do well, it's always because I'm attacking something that they want to see attacked. So he's a very different kind of animal. It's not just about balance. This is what you're being told right now. This is my last point. That, you know, he's got two voices on his shoulders. He's got Reince Priebus on one, and he's got Steve Bannon on the other. You know, Reince is the former head of the RNC chair, and he's like one kind of thought, and here's the other one. That's not how it works. You know, just because you have two doesn't mean that balance is necessarily a good thing. You know, all of us have an angel and a devil, right? The fact that you listen to them kind of equally or weigh out both of their points of advice before you act is not how it's supposed to work. That's what nature is about. What are you about? What do you believe in? What do you really want to see happen and why? That matters. And in the absence of that, a clear picture of that, you got to look at who he has around him. And this is worth criticism. Bannon is not a typical political operative. I don't know him personally. This isn't a personal agenda. I know he was a Navy officer. I know a lot of people who work for him believe in him very deeply. But I'm saying fundamentally, the product he puts out at Breitbart and the moves that he made politically were divisive, and they were something that can be a danger to a country that respects diversity. What do you think?